Can you...
Welcome to Back to the Father, a show about the journey of life focused on our final end, which is God Himself, our loving Father. And now, here's your host, Dave Palmer.
Well, welcome everybody to this edition of Back to the Father here on the Guadalupe Radio Network. I'm Dave Palmer along with Cicely Anderson, and this is a program where we talk about the Summa Theologia and things related to it, something I have a great passion for. And during the next 30 minutes or so, it's going to be a short show. Cicely never believes I can actually do a short show, but this one I'm going to prove her wrong. We are going to be talking about an opportunity that is now available to you to go deeper in a live interactive way to learn the Summa Theologia, along with other topics as well, because we've created something called GRN Academy, and this is a brand new venture of the Guadalupe Radio Network where you can take classes. You pay $149 for a 7-week live class every week for 7 weeks, and you can learn things. And so this fall, we rolled out 4 classes. 2 of them have already had their first class. Mine has not met yet. And the class I'm teaching is called, surprise, surprise, An Introduction to the Summa Theologia. I am what you'll call a one-trick pony. That's pretty much everything I do has to do with the Summa Theologia, right? But I try to be somewhat of an expert on it. By the way, I've got the hat on today. Right after this broadcast, I'm going to be heading over to a live remote broadcast that we're doing out at a big parish in the Dallas Diocese called St. Anne's in Capel, and every year, the weekend after Labor Day, they have a big carnival. It's almost like a state fair for a small state. I mean, it's big. They got carnival rides, and thousands of people come out, and we're always blessed to go out there on the Friday, right as they're opening up, and do a live broadcast out there. And the pastor, Father Edwin Leonard, and members of the staff come on the air with me. So it's always a lot of fun. So we're going to have some merch out there. If you're listening and you're a member of the parish and you're going out there tonight and you want to get a GRN cap or T-shirt or something like that, we're going to have some of those things out there for sale if you would like to buy that. I just put one on and I didn't take it off, so hopefully that won't be too distracting during the broadcast today. Okay, so back to GRN Academy. Okay, back to GRN Academy on Back to the Father. We have 4 classes this first session. One of them, the first one that kicked off was Tuesday night, 7 o'clock Central Time, Angels and Demons with Adam, Blai, and Debbie Georgianni. It's a very popular class. They've got over 40 people enrolled in that class. And let's see, then Wednesday night at 6 o'clock, Steve Gleason has communication skills for Catholic Apologetics, and that one rolled out on Wednesday. Saturday morning, tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, Dr. Ray Lopez, an introduction to Aristotle's ethics. Dr. Ray is a very engaging and accomplished teacher, and he has a lot of interest in philosophy, and so this is going to be a really great course if you want to join that. I haven't had the first class yet, so you can still sign up for that if you'd like. And then little old me, on Monday, this coming Monday, on Our Lady's birthday, September 8th, I'm going to have my first introduction to the Summa Theologia class, and so I invite you to visit the website, grnonline.com/academy, if you'd like to check out those 4 courses. It's not too late to jump into even the ones that have already had one class, and certainly not too late to jump into Dr. Ray Lopez's class and also mine on Monday as well. So I thought I'd just take a little bit of time during the show today to introduce you to what I'll be teaching about. And I have a couple of graphics. I think Cicely's going to put these up on the screen. And the first one, let me see if I can, here we go. The first one is simply, you see there on the top right, if it's up already, okay, it's going to be popping up here. On the top right, you see the logo for GRN Academy, and then you see the Summa Theologia. Summa is 5 volumes. And then you see this interesting little kind of clock-like circular kind of thing. And this is a really a good way of explaining the overall kind of way that the Summa Theologia is formatted. If you look at about 10 o'clock there on that clock, it says the word God, right? So the Summa begins with God, and then if you go all the way around the circle, you'll see that the Summa ends with God as well. And then in the course of the Summa Theologia, you're going to see how God creates a world, he creates man, and then really the Summa is about man's return to God. It says through man, but it's really through Jesus Christ, who was a divine person, of course, took on, human flesh and human nature, and through Christ, through the sacraments, and then all the way back to God through his grace. And that's a very, very simplistic way of looking at the Summa Theologia. But on the next slide, you'll see a little bit better of a breakdown of the way that the class is going to work. And this, I have highlighted on here the first part of the Summa, which just in Latin is Prima Pars, which just means first part. That's all that we're going to cover during these 7 weeks of the first, intro to the Summa Theologia in GRN Academy. But this is really important, and you can see that there's 4 parts to the Summa, Prima Pars, and then part 2 has 2 parts, which is really confusing, but Prima Secundae and then Secunda Secundae, and then the part 3 is called Tertia Pars, which is just Latin for third part, so it's all very simple. So Prima Secundae is the first part, the second part, and then the second part of the second part. And the reason why he put these 2 together is that really the second part is all about man's journey back to God through virtue and the gifts of the Holy Spirit and law and, grace and that kind of stuff. And so it's really interesting. But it would be impossible, I think, to teach the Summa in 7 weeks, 7 50-minute classes. So I've divided it up in 4 parts. So if you'd like to sign up for the first part of it, Prima Pars, I'll tell you what we'll be talking about over these 7 weeks. And if you are logged in and you're watching and you want to let us know where you are or any questions you might have or anything about the GRN Academy in general. Yes, Sissel.
Yes, I'm just cutting in here because I have been monitoring the comments and we're a little bit active. And
we have comments.
We do. We have a comment from Sean who is on Twitch. And he just recently discovered that we stream on Twitch because he was on the Quest the other day when I was producing that as well. So he was just asking a little bit about the show. And he says that he's never really studied the Summa before, but he doesn't really know what it is. He's heard of it, but doesn't know. So maybe this class, or at least today, would be a good starting point for him to learn a little bit more. And of course, we have Joel on YouTube saying that his favorite show is back.
Oh, okay. I know.
Whoops,
this
I switched to the wrong camera. We just got a nice shot of an empty chair.
Okay, so Sean is the one, and he's on Twitch, and he's wondering, he's never studied the Summa before, but just kind of trying to figure out what it's all about. Is that right? Mm-hmm. All right, well, Sean, thanks. I'm glad you asked. And now this isn't our Sean, is it? Is this a different Sean?
Not to my knowledge. I'm pretty sure it's a unique Sean.
Does he spell
it
the same way?
Yes, he does.
Oh, okay. So
I'm assuming it's not our Sean, though.
All right, okay. Because there's a lot of different ways of spelling Sean. And I had a friend in high school, Shawn. And, of course, our Sean Rice is Shaun. And then, of course, there's the more Irish way, Sean. And so it gets a little confusing. But we're just going to assume this isn't our Sean because our Sean would probably know the answer to this already. And so, Sean, thanks for asking. And in the course of this program, I want to explain what I'll be teaching in this first course of the first session of GRN Academy. And if we go to that graphic, which I think is still on, or we can put back on, you'll see that there's several topics that are related. So the way Aquinas starts the Summa is in a very fascinating way because he wants to establish right off the bat that we are on a journey. okay? And we have a particular nature that can only go so far. We can do things with our ordinary human nature, and we have intellect and will and passions and desires and things like that. We have a nature that can accomplish a lot and do things. But the big limitation of our nature is that we aren't able to accomplish our final end on our own. Okay, our final end is to be united to an infinite good, and the infinite good is God. And in order to unite to that infinite good, we need an infinite power to help us get there. And so in the very first article of the Summa, that's what St. Thomas Aquinas describes. He said that it says whether philosophy, any other doctrine is needed. And the point he's making is that we wouldn't even be able to imagine or think of what God has in store for us unless he reveal it to us through sacred scripture and Holy Mother Church. So that's immediately, there's a certain humbling aspect in the first article of the Summa to realize, we can't do it on our own. We have to have help. God's going to have to help us to get to where we're going. And then you should have a healthy curiosity like, well, gosh, I'd like to know more about, where I'm headed and where God's going to help me to get. And so then immediately after that, in question 2, he says, well, does God even exist? Okay, so these are the famous 5 proofs of the existence of God. And we're going to go over those probably in the second class of this session. And this is something I always say you should commit to memory. You should know about the first mover and the first cause and possibility and necessity, degrees of perfection, and then governance of the world. Okay, those are the 5 proofs for the existence of God as laid out by St. Thomas Aquinas. He borrowed a lot from Aristotle as well. So in that class, we'll go over these in a lot more detail than I'm going to have today. I'm just kind of whetting your appetite, so to speak, today. And Cecil, by all means, jump in if anybody else says anything, or if Sean is like, I'm out of here, man.
We have another friend joining us who is not a Sean, is what he's calling himself.
Named Toya or Sammy or what?
No, it is. I don't actually know. I'm using his at name. It's IIMD Prods, like it's in production.
Yeah.
Remember
we used to have that guy named Our Dying Son?
Our Dying Son, that was a great name.
Yeah. A little weird, but
yeah. No. So we're
this is a new, did he say anything? Or
he just said that, and I'm not a Sean, all the different spellings that there could be, but hi to everyone. And so we're happy that they are here as well. So
he's not a Sean.
Not a Sean. We welcome even non-Seans to the show. I just want to make sure that's clear.
That'd be really limiting if we only allowed Seans to listen. So, all right, I what have you, but we're glad you're there as well. All right, so question 2. We learned that God exists, okay? Because if God doesn't exist, all this would be kind of nonsense, and there would be no point in reading and studying the rest of the Summa. All right, and I bet Cecil is so tired because Cecil doesn't have to enroll in the class because she's been living this dream for the last several years of sitting through this show every week for an hour or so. And so what is God like? When St. Thomas Aquinas was 5 years old, he was enrolled at the Monte Cassino Benedictine Monastery, and his family at that point already knew that he was really bright. Your family probably knew you were a genius when you were 5 years old, right, Cecil?
Yeah, definitely. They knew I was something, all right. They knew I was special.
Yeah, special, and in a very special way. So Thomas Aquinas, when he was 5 years old, looked up at his teacher, and he said, "What is God?" And his teachers were like, well, that's an interesting question, because people normally say, who is God, or tell me about God, but he said, what is God? He wanted to know about God. So in that questions 3 through 11 of the Summa, he answers those questions. What is God? What is his nature? And what do you think Sean and Joel and the person who isn't Sean, what do you think is the first way that he describes God in the Summa? Now Joe ought to know this. Okay, this is his favorite show. He's been watching this show for so many years. Does anybody know what is the first word? I bet Cecil knows. Okay, Cecil knows. Certainly.
What was the question?
Well, what's the first word that God uses the first word that St. Thomas Aquinas uses to describe?
I think I know. I may be wrong because I may have my order mixed up, but I think I know.
Okay,
Am I allowed to answer? Is it simple?
Yeah, good. So it's so intriguing because I don't think most of us think of God as being simple. You think of God as being kind of complex and complicated and all that, but he's simple. And there's a lot to go into that, but I won't go into all the details. But one of the ways that God is simple is that he doesn't have a body. All right. So think about it. If we didn't have a body, our life would be a lot simpler. We wouldn't get, like headaches and, like soreness in the back, or we wouldn't get tired. We wouldn't get, hungry, thirsty, sleepy, that kind of thing. So God doesn't have to deal with any of those things. Doesn't have to deal with passions of anger, and those are all related to our body and having a body and that kind of thing. So all right. So then the other thing I'm gonna encourage the students to memorize the 7 attributes of God. All right, so here we're going to do. I'll put myself to the test. Do I remember him? Okay, he's simple, he's perfect, he's good, he's infinite, eternal, immutable, and one. All right, did you get those memorized? Simple, perfect, good, infinite, eternal, immutable, and one. All right, that's not the only thing that God is. God is omnipotent, and he's merciful, and he's just. I mean, it goes on and on and on. But the cool thing about God is that in his simplicity, these are all the same thing. Okay, God doesn't have parts. You can't say, oh, this is his justice, this is his mercy, this is his intellect, this is his will, this is his goodness, this is his perfection. It's all one and the same. Okay, it's all because God is, as he revealed himself to Moses, right? God just is. And it's hard, if not impossible, for us to wrap our heads around that. So we get to know in class 3, what is God, like St. Thomas Aquinas was asking when he was 5 years old. And then we get into, okay, so you got God, and he's just overflowing in love and goodness. And so we learn that there's a communion, a community within the Godhead. Okay, there's 3 persons. And this is quite fascinating when you think about it, that God is 3 persons in one essence, in one nature, in one being. And what does that mean? And why is it important? And why is it that way? And what does that have to do with us? Okay, that we'll learn that in one class. And then if you imagine this God, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, intellect and will and love, and it just bursts out so much that he creates a world. He creates things, creatures. And some of them he gave so much of a likeness to himself that he gave intellect and will. Okay, pretty much the 2 most important things that make God what he is, he gave to some of the creatures, but not all the creatures, just some of them, the angels and the human beings. All right, that's a great privilege for us to have been blessed with this dignity that, millions and millions and millions and millions of species don't have. We have intellect and we have will. It's a great privilege. It's also a great responsibility. So that's, get into the angels, get into human nature, and we'll have a whole class. Now, to teach on human nature in 50 minutes is pretty much impossible because there's so much there. But again, this will just be an introduction, right? And then after angels and after creation, angels, human nature, in the last class, we are going to kind of put it all together and say, okay, now that you kind of know all the players, so to speak, God and the angels and the creatures of various hierarchies, the human beings, how does God rule this world? How does God oversee it? How does God order it through his providence? How he directs all things back to himself? How does he use the angels in order, why are there different kinds of angels? Where do the human beings come in? What's the relationship between human beings and angels? Why are there demons? Why are there good angels, bad angels? That kind of thing. Why is there inequality among the creatures? Why can't all creatures just be the same? So that's what we're going to learn. Okay, so we're going to pack all that into 7 weeks, and it's going to be interactive. Right now, there are 12 students signed up, so it's going to be intimate enough where we can discuss this. And unlike this show, where I really don't know much about who's watching this because there's so many different platforms, in that class, we'll all be, inside of a called an LMS, a learning management system platform, and we'll all be able to see each other. We'll have a little chat room, and we'll communicate, and we'll discuss this. And I'm really looking forward to it. I hope we can build a sense of community and we can learn together. I'll put my many years of, studying the Summa to use and hopefully impart as much of it as I can to all of you. And that's what we'll be doing. So if you would like to sign up for this class, if this introduction intrigued you to any degree, all you got to do is go to grnonline.com/academy, and you will see the 4 classes listed: the Angels and Demons, Communication Skills for Catholic Apologetics, an introduction to Aristotle's Ethics, and then an introduction to the Summa Theologica, and then just click. You got to register for $25, and then each class, each 7 weeks of classes is going to be $149. And you could take multiple classes because none of them conflict. They're all at different times, different days. And next session, after we finish these 7 weeks, we'll roll out new classes and some new teachers. Some big names are planning to be involved in GRN Academy next week. So that's really all I wanted to share with you today. Most people don't think I can talk less than an hour, but I'm going to talk way less than an hour. So I'm just going to.
I think you're like some people.
Some people. Some people,
I don't know unnamed individuals, not at all present.
Yeah. So are there any other comments or questions?
Let me catch it up. I've been busy chatting away here.
I'm only on one platform right now. I'm just on YouTube.
I just was giving everyone the link if you want to learn more to the GRN Academy link. So I've sent that out through all of our social media platforms.
It's so weird because I'm on YouTube and I don't see the comments. Maybe it's a different YouTube channel.
Well, we have two. The thing that's interesting about YouTube is that these days we technically have 2 streams going on YouTube. One that's in portrait mode for your phones and one that is in your traditional landscape mode for desktop. Mm-hmm. And so usually the comments are more on the portrait mode version because I think the algorithm pushes the portraits a little bit more. But I appreciate everyone that's been hanging out with us today. Usually the show is longer because we dive deeply into a lot of different topics from the Summa. So I just want to let anyone know who's new to make sure that when future weeks...
It's normally not this brief.
It's not normally this brief. This is just a little brief one. We have our share-a-thon next week, so we will not be on. But if you want to support Catholic Radio during that week, we certainly would appreciate it. So you can find all the information at our website, grnonline.com. And following after that, we'll be back to hopefully a regular weekly show, 1 p.m. Central Time, where we dive deeper into a topic. I say we. Dave dives deeper, and I try my best to keep my head above water.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks for the comments. And again, apologies for the brevity of this particular one, but we should be back in 2 weeks. This show kind of pops in and out. I do send out an email, which reminds me that if you'd like to get on our email list, all you got to do is email back to the Father at grnonline.com. And you know what would be such a blessing is if even one person, maybe Sean, that commented earlier, if you sign up for the class, wouldn't it be so cool if Back to the Father generated a GRN Academy enrollment? I just think that would be the coolest thing. So even if you're watching this on a recorded basis, just a reminder that the Introduction to the Summa Theologica class begins on Monday, September 8th. That's Our Lady's birthday, this coming Monday. So it's not too late to sign up and get all the classes. grnonline.com/academy. Sign up for mine or any of the other 3 classes for the Academy. Academy.
For the economy.
The economy. Yeah. You help the economy. You certainly help our economy, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Goodbye, and God bless you. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for the next Back to the Father.
Thanks for joining us for Back to the Father. And don't forget, the glory of God is the human person fully alive. If you have comments about the show, email Dave Palmer at grnonline.com.